everybody. Happy Tuesday morning, afternoon, depending on where you are from. As always, we're very happy to have you here on our bi-weekly bits and bolts coffee break. So I hope you have your coffee and beverage ready, as I almost always do, because let's dive into it. As usual, we have Stuart Clark and myself, Armaan Sami. We'll each be talking about a different topic. Again, topics which are suggested, things that come up often, different things that maybe is a new release or an old release that needs a little bit more attention. We'll talk about some topics today. And these topics specifically are, for my side, the difference between jobs and profiles. This is a question that I get often, probably every new client or new partner we're training. And it's something that I would like to explain a little bit more of on today's session, and also give kind of the pitch or the couple of sentences that you can use when you are speaking to a client, partner, or training someone new at your organization. Stuart will then talk a little bit about run scripts and introducing some new functionality around run scripts, which are quite exciting, at least in my opinion. Yeah, and with that, let's jump into it. At any time, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to say hi. There is, of course, a chat and a question section there, so please feel free to engage with us there as well. So hopping into the SureMDM console, and again, I'm going to make it probably a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but I just want to make sure everyone can see this. We have at the very top bar here a jobs and a profiles section. Now, if you are a legacy user of SureMDM, when I mean legacy, we're talking about it's probably 3 or 4 years ago, before the introduction of Android management, Play for Work or Android Enterprise. You might have been familiar or not even have seen profiles there before. That's because it was introduced with the adoption or the enhancements of Android Enterprise, also iOS profiles and Windows profiles, but this is a relatively new thing, relatively in the scope of 42 Gears is 15 years of business. Before then, everything has always been managed and done in a job. So we have, of course, the list of jobs. We had new jobs. You would select the operating system, and you would create any number of jobs that you would need and composite them together in a composite job, creating, let's say, a unofficial profile. Now, some clients and some partners are still using this, and there's some benefits to doing it this way. We'll talk about those at the end. But newer, again, 3 to 4 years, we have introduced profiles. And in profiles, you have a similar layout. So here you have the different, operating systems you can pick from. You can see the different profiles, and you can change them to do different things. So we have like the application policy similar to an install job. You have system settings, which you might have been using different scripts to configure and change. Branding that might have been done through SureLock or SureFox, and different configurations here. So different things that we have been doing. So Armaan, there's a lot of overlap. What is the actual difference between jobs and profiles? As I mentioned, jobs are, let's say, the legacy way of handling things, and profiles are the newer way of handling things. So why not get rid of jobs altogether if it's causing so much confusion? It's actually because the protocols and methods that we are using to enact or to, let's say, do things like install an application or to change a system setting are actually different. If we are using profiles, specifically in this case, in the environment of Android, we are using Android Enterprise or Android Managed APIs. And these APIs are different than the APIs that we use in jobs. So in jobs, where we might just be using regular Android APIs to do things like install apps or change system settings, in profiles, we're using a whole different set of commands. Now, The benefit here is that if one does not work, you have the other one to fall back on. And I'll give you an example of a rollout we did with our partners at Lenovo a few months back in Switzerland. We had a client which was, they were enrolling something like hundreds of devices at the same time. So they had a giant table, they had laid out a bunch of different phones and tablets. And as they were turning them on and connecting them into the SureMDM system, they found that some devices took much longer to enroll than others. They were at this point only using profiles to manage the entire configuration and the entire, let's say, setup of that device. Relatively simple kiosk mode and app installation. But they were very unhappy or unsatisfied with the fact that some devices might take 5 minutes to set up and other devices might take 20 minutes to set up. It was very inconsistent. They could not figure out what the cause was or why one would take less time or one would take more time. What we ended up suggesting to them was to use a mix of profiles and jobs. So their application was their own third-party application. It was not in the Play Store, which meant that they had added it to the App Store, but they could have also used a job to push it as well. Now, why did we suggest this? The reason being that in profiles, we are pushing this application through a Google server. So this application kind of gets shared with Google and then finds its way down to that device at the end of the day, maybe 20 minutes later. This is not always the most optimal approach because we don't always have control of this Google server and we don't always know if something's going to get, let's say, delayed or throttled. However, we do have control of our 42 gears servers. And if you use jobs to install an application, you will then be using our servers to handle this load instead of Google, meaning that we can be a little bit more, let's say, in control of any throttling or delays that might happen. So in this scenario, what we ended up recommending to them was to create a composite job here, adding things like, let me just come down here, find a funnily spelled default profile, and then coming here and then adding like an install job or something like that. So by using a mix of these different things, we were able to, profiles and jobs, we were able to give them the most optimal use of their, or let's say, configuration of their devices. Now, again, benefits here, you have different APIs. And I should also mention, if I just come back to like new jobs and just sticking to Android here as the basic example, if I come all the way down, you're also going to see things like different types of, let's say, 42 gears offerings, which are not part of the Android API system, Android Enterprise or managed APIs. Things like telecommunication management, geofencing, network time fencing, and in the case of some specific OEMs, you have different things like Zebra specific, or in scripts, you have Samsung and other specific APIs that a manufacturer might give you access to. And now you can also use OEM config in some cases to set up, but you can also use the OEM's specific APIs as well. And these you're going to find in jobs. So when I'm training somebody to, let's say, use the system for the first time, what I normally recommend is we start with profiles. We build here whatever our basic profile is, whatever apps and settings are required, and we leave that as is. We try to keep the majority of the truth in one place. As we start to roll out and to have our devices be configured or updated, if you start to see like a stopgap where something is taking too long or something is not working efficiently, this is when I would then recommend coming over to jobs and seeing if you can supplement some things in the profile with a job or a different action. Now, again, of course, if you are using like something like the telecommunication management or fence, you're going to need to use a job anyway. But if all you're doing is installing some apps, configuring them, and changing some basic settings, profiles might be enough to get this all done, and it won't be a problem. If you are going to use a combination of profiles and jobs, I would then also just recommend that, well, for starters, when you make the profile and you hit save, having a default profile will just mean that that profile is the first profile that gets installed on that device as it enrolls. You can leave it as is. However, what you can also do, and what we do is sometimes recommend in cases of profiles getting stuck or taking longer to deploy, as you do make your job, you can also add that profile into the composite job, and then after that, add whatever other activities and things that you want as part of that configuration. So you can still mix and match, and you can still have that same profile in two places. Now, if it is a different profile, just be aware that the new profile, the second profile, will still override the first profile. Apps might get uninstalled, system settings might change, so just be aware of that. And once you have named and saved this composite job, adding it as a group or a tag property will mean that any device that gets tagged with this tag or enrolled into this folder will still get the configuration. So both methods are the same, can be automatically and automatically applied to a device, but the major difference is profiles use newer Android enterprise specific APIs or Apple or Microsoft Windows specific APIs designed for management of a mobile device, versus a job uses other APIs and other commands which might not have officially been designated or used for management of a device, but they're additional tools that we provide for you in the case that you might need them. All right.
I love the description once. I can't even remember who it was who told me, but of the profile being the foundation of a building. You lay a foundation and use the jobs to potentially grow that in the shape or form of a deployment. So it's quite a nice example.
Beautiful. No, I like it. I've not heard that, so that didn't come from me, but I'm going to steal that from you.
Good.
Wonderful. Well, I don't see any questions yet, but if they do come, please throw them in there and we'll answer them at the end. But I think, Stuart, we can hand over to you. I'll make you the presenter and you can talk a little bit about scripts.
Super. Thank you. Let me share this in the meantime. Perfect. Have you got that? You're able to see it, Armaan? Super. Yes. I'm not even going to open the presentation in the full screen mode. I'm ready just to touch on the second topic, obviously, was run scripts, and I'm really glad we used the word introduction, because I was doing some preparation and last night and this morning, and I realized just how powerful these run scripts are in general, and how little we probably will be able to share in this short session. But at the same time, I guess for myself and I guess for many of those of you who may have experimented with our run script functionality before, just really how this can be extended. Obviously, as Armaan's mentioned, some new functionality that I'm going to show you. But yeah, let me touch into or dig into the run scripts as a start. And I guess for those of you who perhaps have never seen our run script functionality, remember that it is obviously, as Armaan showed a little bit earlier, divided by operating system. So you will find those run scripts as I guess what I could call a job within the list of available jobs. And I guess probably practically the reason why these scripts are positioned in the way that they are is that these are potentially hundreds, possibly even thousands, I guess, by the time. I've looked through the different variants that are already there. It would be impossible to display these in any sort of user-friendly UI. It's just impossible when you see the type of control and the type of extensions that are available. So please, as I mentioned, you will find it within each of the operating system selections. You will find the run script. Again, some of these, let's take Android for an example, will have extended functionality, and others Some of the Apple operating systems will have just 1 or 2 scripts that are available, and so we are completely controlled by what is available. Another mention as well is that there are varied scripts available, not only just what we would call our SureMDM scripting engine, but PowerShell, ADB. There's some JavaScript functionality, and so there really is a massive environment or varied environment of these utilities or scripts that can be deployed or pushed to devices for obviously various functions. And again, to touch on those, I find that generally where there is something that I'm expecting to do on a device or have been asked to do on a device, and I'm not able to find it within our traditional profiles or job listing, the run scripts are the next best sort of section to have a look at. And very regularly, a search, as we have, is something that I would use to be able to go and find that specific function. Can I unzip this particular file and attach it to perhaps a folder on my device? Can I rename something? Can I delete some files within a particular folder or that are perhaps of a certain age? And the list continues and continues. So it's really again, just as kind of a reminder, these are things that we would just physically would be impossible to display in a UI that would be anything practical for somebody to search through. So yeah, let me show you. Again, as I said, divided by operating system. One of the things that I am going to touch on, and I'm going to go there to begin with, and it will be expanded across all of the operating system options, but at least at this time within our Windows and Linux options, we have what we call Deep Thought, and some of you may remember Deep Thought as our AI-based chatbot that's available in the SureMDM console. We have the possibility to ask Deep Thought to be able to create a script for us. And again, this could be absolutely anything. I'm going to say, within a Windows environment, create a user called Stuart. And by selecting the Deep Thought response, you will see I already have a generated PowerShell script within the Windows environment that does what I'm asking it to do. The possibility of just clicking on insert and saving this, giving it a name, saving it, and applying it onto my device or devices is obviously available. And you can see the extensions, or I guess the way that this could be expanded is almost unlimited in the environment that is supported within the scripting. Another thing that's important to mention, and Armaan actually mentioned it yesterday while we were chatting, there are also a significant number of scripts that are not available by default within our SureMDM environment that some of our technical team have the availability or access to. So please, if there is something that you are looking for that is not available, there is obviously, as I mentioned, from within the SureMDM environment, the possibility to add it, but also the possibility to go and have a look under generic PowerShell and the rest of those types of scripting methods. I'm going to go back to my my Android environment just to give you some examples, and I thought I would pick the APN functionality because this is one of those that is quite often asked. While I'm doing that, let me give you an example from within the Android scripting method of how we've divided this, and Armaan touched on it a little bit earlier about the fact that some of these are divided by, as an example, Samsung devices that would have signed enterprise agents, and then also a section specifically for Zebra. And so again, as we run through these subsections, you would find very specific scripting for that particular type or OEM-based device. I'm going to use the APN functionality, and some of those of you who've used our scripting or our jobs in the past would know that it's not possible to be able to generate an APN within let's call it a standard job within our jobs environment. So in order to be able to deploy an APN onto a device, you would move to a signed agent section. A device would need to have a signed enterprise agent, and you will see within the APN subsection the possibility to be able to create an APN. The reason I chose this one to show you is that where there is variables included in these scripts, you will find that we will give you a summary of those variables or the expected variables within this run script environment. So I can go and build a little string of comma-separated values that contain all of those criteria that are expected as part of my APN configuration. I have the possibility, obviously, to do the validation and the insert straight after that, and then to be able to save this script in an environment that can be deployed to all of my devices. And again, examples, as I mentioned, different examples specifically related to the controlling of files, permissions, peripherals, absolutely anything that you could possibly think of outside of the traditional jobs, you may very well be able to find within these environments. And so please, as always, have a chat to us if there's something that you're not able to find. Feel free to reach out to one of us. Feel free to reach out to our tech support team. And I'm sure one of us would be able to help if it is something that is available. Perfect. Again, I'm very aware of the fact that I'm literally scratching the surface of the unscript section. I do realize that we're going to have to spend a lot more time on this and a lot more, I guess, in-depth look at specific sections within the run script functionality that we will look to cover in future topics. And then, as part of our wrap-up, just a reminder, as we normally have mentioned, we're on our 11th episode of Bits and Bolts today. The previous 10 are already available within our YouTube playlist, and it can be accessed using the QR code or just on our 42 Gears YouTube page. And then upcoming dates, we have 2 in most of the remaining months of the year, unlike July. Next coming up, obviously, on the 13th of August. And remaining dates listed on the screen for you to please make a note of if you haven't already got those suggested. And that's it. Armaan, any questions that you had seen coming through while I was chatting? I'm sorry, I didn't have a look.
No, I didn't, but I just wanted to kind of add one point to the Ask Deep Thoughts, the concept, the AI integration for the tool of ours is pretty, for me, very interesting for a few reasons. Firstly, if you are, and I think most of the people on the call are probably experts in 1 or 2 operating systems, but you might have, for instance, a client that comes in and says, okay, now I need Linux supports. And if you know Android, maybe you know quite a bit about Linux, but maybe you don't know everything about like Ubuntu PCs. Being able to ask and interact with the chatbot would, I think, help you find a solution much faster than if you had to go search through some Stack Overflow blogs and figure out, okay, who's done this and where can I get the answer? So I hope that people, or let's say also in the future when it's just available for Android, right now, as Stuart mentioned, you might have to check with our team and say, hey, 42 Gears, do you have a script to do this? I don't see it as a pre-made template. As Deep Thought gets better and bigger, it'll be able to answer this for you and automatically give you the script versus you having to wait for us to talk to you and give you an answer. So hopefully faster, more independent, let's say, workflows and abilities. But
absolutely, and I guess to that point, I bet you're probably similar to me. I haven't had any questions about Windows and Linux scripting in the last couple of months. So it's I guess answers exactly what you've just mentioned. Our partners and our colleagues are feeling comfortable enough to be able to use the scripting section to be able to get what they need.
Exactly. We did actually just have a question come in too. So the question is specifically regarding Zebra scripting, so Stage Now MX scripting. And the question was, can you show us an example of how to integrate Stage Now XML exports into SureMDM? Would you like to do it, Stuart? I could do it too if you like.
If you don't mind, will you do it? Let me quickly share it back to you. Give me a second. I'm going to switch.
Yeah, most certainly. So this is a great question. Again, this is an example of why jobs, from my perspective before, is an interesting way for you to be able to manage this. Again, 2 reasons. Almost anything you can do in Stage Now is available as part of Zebra OEM config. However, sometimes you might not have open ports to the Google Play Store. You might not have maybe again, oh, it's a Play Store app that gets updated, that gets pushed. Maybe you don't want that. So there are quite a few advantages of using the just going to using jobs in this case. So by going to jobs, new jobs, Android, there's actually two ways to use Zebra Sage Now XML commands. One option is in the run scripts. So up here, you can click on run scripts, come over to Zebra, and you're going to see, I'm just going to click on one clear clipboard here as just a quick example. But you're going to see a very simple kind of format for our scripting engine that you might have noticed already. The layout remains the same. So exclamation point hash SureMDM is the first line. And the second line is Zebra open bracket, closed bracket. Everything here in the middle is a direct copy paste of the exported XML that you have within Sage Now. So configure whatever you want in Stage Now, export that to XML, and paste it within this format and this syntax. These are, so what you're seeing here are just examples of exactly that. So, I mean, this one might need me to edit some values. I'm just going to put something in here quickly. But you're going to see that it's more or less the exact same thing. If you were to export XML, Stage Now XML, paste it here, and that will work perfectly for you. This is one option. This option here requires you to export, copy, and paste. The second option is what I kind of quickly showed at the beginning. So if I scroll all the way down here, we have Zebra MX config. In this application or this kind of tool, all you will need to do is name it and import your exported Stage Now configuration into the MDM. So saving you the download, copy, paste. Here you can just download and import. And that exact same Stage Now export can be used as a job within SureMDM. Yeah, and of course, once it's saved, you can see it in jobs and then push it to any device that you want it through either control click apply or group applications. I hope that answered your question. It's a great question.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, I don't see any others. Looks like it's, yeah, looks like that's it.
Wonderful. Then with that, we'll wish you all a great rest of your day. I hope everyone's able to enjoy the nice, hot, sunny weather, at least through a window. And we look forward to chatting with whoever is here with us in August.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.